Hi, I'm Sydney,
And I'm Jake.
and you're listening to Two for the Matinee.
Today we were supposed to talk about Gilda and French Kiss, but we'll just be talking about Gilda.
Yeah, I messed up on that. Sorry about that.
Maybe next time.
We can save it for next week.
Or we can, maybe we'll go deep into some of the other movies I watched this week.
Oh, yeah, that's true. We can do that too. All right,
Yeah.
that sounds like a plan.
Cool. Well, actually, I wanted to start off with a little more Heat Talk Part 2. Because I pulled up the Wikipedia entry on Heat, which we watched last week, and I learned a couple interesting things.
Like what?
One being that the two main characters, Neil McCauley and Vincent Hanna, are based on real people. So there was actually a Neil McCauley who was a calculating criminal, ex-Alcatraz inmate, known for, I guess, robbing armored vehicles and banks and all sorts of criminal activity. And he was tracked down by a detective, Chuck Adamson, who Vincent Hanna is based on. And they were also, the last time McCauley was caught, it was because Detective Adamson had set up like a trap for them where they closed off all the street exits so they couldn't escape. And at one point, the two did meet for coffee and I guess had a friendly relationship. And Michael Mann had, I guess, some kind of relationship with Chuck Adamson because in his 2009 film Public Enemies, he ends the credits with "In memory of Chuck Adamson." The character of Nate, who was played by John Voight, the fence, that's also based on a real-life former career criminal and fence turned writer, Edward Bunker, who served as a consultant on the film.
Did John meet a tragic end?
I think he did. Yeah, he
Like
so
in the film?
when the crew was cornered, they were trying to make their escape, and McCauley was shot to death on the lawn of a nearby home.
What year was this? When did this happen?
This was in 1964 he was shot, I believe.
Okay.
But Detective Adamson lived to 71. In 2008, he passed away.
Oh, so he got to see the movie.
Yeah, which I think is cool.
Yeah.
And I also learned there was some sort of event where Christopher Nolan interviewed De Niro and Pacino about the movie. And I haven't looked to see if this is on YouTube. It might be a special feature on the Blu-ray. But during this interview, Al Pacino revealed that his character was high on cocaine the entire movie, which would explain his random bouts of screaming.
I was gonna say his erratic behavior at some points in the movie make more sense now, but we never see him use drugs.
Right, and it also explains how at some point all the cops are working at 2 a.m, and I was just like thinking to myself, "This is crazy." Being they're working around the clock. But
oh yeah, he never goes home and goes to bed. True story.
I guess if you're high on cocaine, you can pull those all-nighters.
Yeah, that's some character work Pacino was doing there.
Yeah, Heat Talk.
Heat Talk. Coming at you.
Yeah, so what else did you watch this week?
Oh, Jesus. I watched like 26 documentaries about Orson Welles, and then I watched all the Orson Welles stuff that's on Criterion right now because there's like a whole Orson Welles collection. I basically fell in love with Orson Welles this week, okay?
It was an Orson Welles kind of week. How many movies did he make?
He made quite a few movies. I think he directed like 10 or 12. I'm not quite sure. But all of his productions where he was a director were very drawn out sort of hunts for money so that he could finance them. And he would have to start and stop a lot of them. And then the ones that he did make that were for the studio always had studio interference with them. So they were never really his complete vision. And what I found out, which was quite interesting, is that they really call him sort of the first indie filmmaker because he was trying to do these stories that the studios didn't want made. So then he went out and tried to do them himself and would try to raise funds for them. And didn't always persevere. Sometimes he did. but he always sort of stayed true to his artistic vision.
So why did he encounter so much friction in the production process? Was it simply because the studios didn't believe in the stories he was trying to tell?
I know with Ambersons that the head of the studio was a cheerleader. The head of the studio, RKO, brought him in, was impressed by what he'd been doing in New York and his radio program, and wanted to elevate the product coming out of RKO. He wanted prestige pictures coming out of RKO. But even though the head of the studio was his cheerleader, there were lots of people on the board for RKO who did not like him. They didn't like his sort of elitism. They didn't like his intellectualism. They didn't like his politics. So it was a constant battle between the head of the studio and his board to let Welles do what he wanted to do, which ultimately failed with Ambersons because he lost control of that movie. And they ended up taking out like 32 minutes of the final film and recutting it and shooting scenes that he never wrote. And yeah, so was very disappointed by that whole experience.
When you said the board didn't like his elitism, you're talking about Orson Welles?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't mean like elitism, like, oh, like, you know, he's a wealthy person, but, you know, his intellectual elitism.
Right. I could picture him just telling him all to fuck off because his material's genius and they don't know.
I mean, clearly he was right. You know, he was the one who was right. They did not meddle. They did not meddle with Citizen Kane, even though there was a lot of pressure for that movie to not come out. But they did meddle with Ambersons. And the whole thing is they meddled with Ambersons because they thought they were not going to make money on it. But they meddled in it to the point where they ruined it. So they didn't make money on it. So they could have just left it alone.
Self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah. Unless it was like a vendetta as well. Put this like boy genius in his place.
So as far as the quality of his films, did they decline over time or it was just kind of up and down throughout?
I think it was up and down. I've seen Jane Eyre. He does not direct in that, although he does assist the director. I mean, how could he not?
Yeah. Here's how I would do it.
Exactly. I like that version of Jane Eyre with Joan Fontaine and Orson Welles. So I don't have a problem with it. The Stranger I liked, but he assisted the director on that. His other movies, I haven't seen anything else I guess Touch of Evil, but they took that away from him too.
Is The Stranger isn't based on the novel by Camus, is it?
No.
Okay. Wait, Jane Fontaine, we saw her in something else, right?
She was in Suspicion.
Ah, okay. So what was the last movie that he directed?
It's on Netflix. It's The Other Side of the Wind or something. It's not completed. They kind of put it together with his notes and what they had. And there's a documentary that goes along with it. But I tried to watch it and it was a little bit painful.
I guess, what's the last good movie he acted in?
So he has this movie, maybe we should watch it. I don't know, not right now, but it's on Criterion. It's called The Chimes at Midnight. It has like 100% on Rotten Tomatoes. He wrote and directed it.
Chimes at Midnight. All right, I'll watch it.
But since I'm like in love with him, I have to watch it. And that's all I watched this week. I don't think I watched anything else. Except for The Umbrella Academy.
Season 2?
No, I just started it.
This first season is terrible.
It is terrible. It's so messy.
Have you seen The Boys?
Yes.
So everything great about The Boys is like lacking in The Umbrella Academy.
Yes.
It's just so boring, such a like lame story. Everyone's mopey the whole time.
I called it messy. I think it's messy. I think this plotting is messy. The characters are messy. Everything's messy, but I was entertained by it, some of it. So I'm plodding through. I'm on episode 7.
I wasn't even, I plotted through it, but like after a couple episodes, I'm like, well, I don't really like this, but I guess I should just finish it to see what happens. And then I was just like disappointed. And I don't plan on watching season 2 at all. And then I watched The Boys right after I finished Umbrella Academy. I'm like, okay, this show is fresh. This is good stuff.
Oh yeah.
I'm concerned about season 2. I hope they don't run out of steam. You would think, usually they pick stuff that's well-received intellectual property, right? To make it into a different genre because it's already a hit in the original genre or the original form. So my guess is Umbrella Academy is like considered good by the comic readers out there. I watched So actually, this morning I watched the trailer to. Is it called Sing Along? That Malik movie, or the one with Ryan Gosling and
Oh my God, Song to Song.
oh, so
Jesus,
so
that movie was painful.
I read the description and it said something about like how it's set to the backdrop of the Austin music scene, and I should have known right there and then that this is.
Did you watch it?
No, I watched the trailer. I'm like, there's no fucking way I'm watching this movie.
I watched the movie. I watched the movie, and I love Malik, and I love I love Ryan Gosling, and I was just like, I can't. I watched the whole thing. It's like Malik at his most Malik-y, which is not a good thing, I don't think.
That's just a lot of Malik-y.
It's very, I mean, yeah. If someone was going to do a parody of a Terrence Malick movie, this would be it, but Terrence Malick actually made it.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, the cast is like, I'm like, oh, Ryan Gosling, Natalie
Michael
Portman, Michael Fassbender, and what's her name from Carol?
Oh, Rooney Mara.
Yeah, I'm like, great cast. I'm in. I'm ready. It made me think of Closer, with because they had like the foursome. But that I enjoyed. This I don't think I would enjoy, so I skipped that. But I watched. I guess I rewatched The Other Guys. Do you remember that movie?
I never watched that.
Oh,
I saw you tweeted about it. I'm like, have I seen this? Like, no, I haven't.
Yeah, I tweet about it because I'm watching it. And this movie's still hilarious, and it's clearly a prelude to The Big Short. I recommend it. It's really funny. It's a bit of a dig at like the financial sector and Wall Street and all that, but it's really funny. But a lot of the jokes, they're like very misogynistic. And I just didn't remember that, and it like really struck. Aside from that, though, I think it's a good comedy. I liked it the second time around, and then I watched Junya.
Oh, Arnold, is that the one with where
he's very pregnant? In that? Danny DeVito.
Yeah.
Yes. And you know what? I don't know if that movie. I don't think it was a bomb, right? It was kind of a middle of the road. Ivan Reitman directed and produced it. Emma Thompson's in it. It's got a good cast. I
remember that. I remember. It's silly.
It's not even that like the. Okay, the premise is obviously silly because it's about a man, Arnold, being impregnated through this like scientific process because they're trying to develop this drug. The FDA rejected it, so they decided to do a human trial for various reasons. They decided to do it on Arnold, so they impregnate him, but. I mean, there's like obviously there's like hijinks and stuff in it, but there's like some drama, and I think Arnold does a pretty good job. Really engaging with the role as the world's first pregnant man. So yeah, it was fun. I hadn't seen it in a long time.
I haven't seen it. I think I went to the movie theater with my mom and saw that.
She's probably disappointed because there's no action.
Probably.
And now I'm wondering, because there's been a talk of them making triplets with Schwarzenegger, Danny DeVito, and Eddie Murphy for years. They've been talking about making this. And I thought it was in like pre-production or something, but I haven't checked on it to see if they're actually going ahead with it. And that could either be really good or
not.
Just terrible because they're all so old.
Yeah.
And all the jokes will just land very flatly. Well, I have one episode left in the first season of Rome. So once I finish that, we can discuss my feelings of watching Rome, like 15 years after it came out? Because we used to talk a lot about that show, remember?
Might be the same that I felt watching Carnival. Yeah, I might revisit that too, because that was like the same time Carnival came out.
Yeah.
And I revisited Carnival, and I think it aged really well.
It was, I don't know if I'd call it like, what are the different stages of the Marvel Cinematic Universe? Are they called stages?
Phase. I think it's phase
Phases.
1, phase 2.
This is like phase. I want to say it's phase 2 of like great HBO shows, but maybe it's still part of phase 1 because I don't know if Sopranos and Rome.
I think phase 1 is like Oz.
Yeah, it was like Sopranos, Oz, The Wire,
Mm-hmm.
Sex and the City. So I don't know. Rome might overlap a little bit with.
Yeah, so phase 2 is like Deadwood, Rome, Carnival.
And I think The Wire, because that might have been.
And the vampire one, True Blood.
True Blood. Yeah, you might be right. Yeah, so I have one episode left. Yeah, I'm also debating, and we could talk about this next week as well, whether I should watch season 2, because I remember hating season 2, and I think it was like part writer's strike, part budget problems. I remember that was a mess, and I was just so disappointed.
Oh, I watched Top Gun.
Oh yeah, I saw that on, I think it was on Prime, and I thought
It's
about
on
watching
Prime,
it.
yeah. Dude, you know what though? Maverick is such an asshole.
Yeah, I haven't seen it in a while. You know what? I don't love that movie.
I don't love it either, but I like how, in my mind for some reason, I remembered like Tom Cruise's character differently than how he actually is.
Yeah, he's a selfish prick.
Yeah, he's such an asshole. And I'm watching it, I'm like, oh, he's such an asshole. I still like him because he still manages to be likable and you're still rooting for him, but he's such an asshole during that whole movie. And it's a little bit darker in my mind. Like I didn't remember sort of all the plot involved. And then when I watched it, I'm like, oh, this movie's a little bit darker than like.
Oh, you forgot that Goose died?
Well, I remember that Goose died, but then there's sort of like that romance between him and Kelly McGillis, which has got some problems to it, and the way he treats her. Yeah, it's I liked it. It was more drama action than straight action.
Did Tony Scott direct that?
Yes.
Love Tony Scott.
Yeah. R.I.P.
R.I.P. Except for like his last 2 movies where he just went off the rails with like the weird super cuts and like what's that effect that he did where like the colors would oversaturate?
Yeah. I don't know what they call that though.
Yeah. Kind of lost me towards the end there, but otherwise he's great. And I'm looking forward to, I think Maverick, that's the name of the sequel, right? Maverick?
Yeah.
I think that got pushed to Christmas.
I checked, actually, I looked it up because I'm like, I want to know because Val Kilmer's in it.
Yeah.
I think it's been actually pushed to 2021.
Well, so I know that Disney is releasing Mulan on their streaming service to rent for like $30, which I'm not interested in. But if there are other like big names, big movies that we want to go halvesies on, I'd be into it.
Look, I pay $30 for Black Widow, but they're not doing that.
Yeah, I wouldn't. But like Maverick, I think I would. Yeah, I guess they're like movie theater or nothing. But
which I don't think it's going to be a sustainable model. Like you can't do that. It's going to have to, I mean, I'm sorry, but the movie theater as we know it is probably not coming back.
Yeah, I think there's going to be, towns will have independent theaters that are either like showing classic movies that are cheap to rent or like indie stuff or foreign stuff, maybe the occasional blockbuster. But I think that I have a hard time seeing the chains continuing, especially with like these ticket prices and the price of concessions.
No, and I think that they're making a mistake by not releasing these movies on video on demand.
Yeah. So let's talk about Gilda.
Yeah, let's go into Gilda. Gilda is a 1946 film directed by Charles Vidor. And it's the story of, well, shit. It's
a convoluted story.
It's one of those things where the mystery doesn't matter.
It's sort of about a love triangle, sort of,
and some Nazis in Buenos Aires.
And a tungsten cartel.
And yeah, and a woman named Gilda.
So I couldn't make sense of this movie. I watched it yesterday, and I've been I took down some notes, some questions I had, some observations, and I've just been thinking about it. And then it hit me in the shower today what this movie is. This movie is a proto James Bond movie. Because you have the typical Bond villain who wants to rule the world through a tungsten monopoly cartel. He runs a casino, and he's married to this beautiful woman who doesn't love him. All that's missing is James Bond.
Well,
you weren't expecting that. But think about it.
When people say things coming at you from left field, this was from left field.
Yeah.
I guess in a way, I mean, this could be a spy thriller. It's missing sort of the spies, but I mean, that's not really what I first of all, let me go back. Did you like this movie or no?
I lean no, but I also sense that if I watched it a few more times, I think I'd like it more.
Okay.
Maybe it just hasn't really sunk in yet. I didn't really, it was okay. It was okay.
Okay, so I've seen this movie probably every year since I was 11 years old, and I never get tired of it. I've watched it. This is the second time I've watched it this year. Every time I watch this movie, I notice different things about it, and this is like an ongoing love affair I've had with this movie for like X amount of years. And I realized after watching it this time that it's the tungsten and all that shit. None of that matters.
Yeah,
It's
agree
not.
with
That is the same MacGuffin from Notorious with the uranium. Like it doesn't matter. The movie is about this character dynamic and this crazy psychosexual trio between Rita Hayworth's Gilda, Glenn
Psychosexual?
I think it is psychosexual. I think there's a lot of stuff going on there subconsciously, and it's between all three of these people.
I'm gonna need evidence for your thesis.
This obsessive hate between Johnny and Gilda, that love-hate relationship, this sort of weird homoeroticism between Johnny and Balin, the possessive ownership that Balin has over Gilda. Like, that's what this movie's about.
Right. I mean, what I said wasn't really what the movie was about. It was what my interpretation of the movie in my universe of film. But I had a lot of questions. So let's start there. Why does Munson hire Johnny to run his casino? Johnny's like this cheating, gambling dirtbag.
Yeah, he is. He is a dirtbag.
And Munson's like, I'm going to save you from getting beat up for cheating, and I'm going to hire you to run my casino. Why would he trust him?
I don't know. There's a lot of things that I don't make a lot of sense. And I even wrote down on my notes, who knows anything that happens in this movie? We don't. We have no idea what motivates these people. The only thing that I can figure is that he recognizes something in, well, there's two things. Either he recognizes something in Johnny that is familiar to some character traits that he himself has, or it goes back to my homoerotic theory where he is like,
he's attracted to him.
He's attracted to him.
Which is, Johnny, I mean, Glenn Ford's a great actor, but like they keep talking about how handsome he is. Like, I didn't think he was that handsome. I think they could have cast someone more handsome. I wasn't buying it. So then he hires him. And then it seems like Munson has this weird obsession about getting the three of them, him, Johnny, and Gilda, to like hang out together. It's like he kind of knows there was something between them and he just wants to see them squirm. Yeah.
You know that there's something going on and he wants to know what it is because these are the two people that are closest to him. The sexual tension, you can cut that with a knife. I can cut that with a knife through my television screen.
And why can't anyone admit that they have a past?
I like that we don't know anything about these people.
But what's their motivation for keeping it a secret?
I don't know, but it's fine. I'm okay with it.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, okay. And then there's like, towards the end, there's a scene where Munson shows Johnny the safe. And he's like, all the important papers are here. And it's just like he's asking for the setup where like, I was expecting Johnny to kill him to get the money and steal Gilda. Like, it's almost like Munson's asking for it. Here are the keys to the palace. Do whatever you want. But
you know Johnny is loyal to Munson, except for that one time when he's not. Right? He's like loyal to him to a fault. And his hatred of Gilda, however deserved, undeserved, we don't know because we don't know what went on between Johnny and Gilda. We have no idea. Yeah, something went down.
She broke his heart. We get it.
She broke his heart and he broke her heart. I don't know who the blame is on. Somebody treated somebody like shit. Obviously, some heavy stuff went down between them because they are not cool with each other.
Yeah.
Although she thaws a little bit more easily than he does. I even forgot my train of thought. I don't even know where I was going with that.
And I mean, for me, the most interesting character in this was Munson. There's like something like really cool about it. What's his name? McCready.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just something very intriguing about him and his character. And he's like kind of mysterious. You don't really know what he's up to.
He has that scar on his face.
And like, yeah, he's got the scar. So you're like, wait, is he like an ex-Nazi or something? Like, what's going on here? And I know this is like Rita Hayworth's most famous role, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think I've seen anything else with her. And I was kind of underwhelmed. I was like,
are you serious? I thought you would be in love with her.
I know she's supposed to be a legend, but I was just like, I don't know. She seemed like she's like overacting real hard. Is she considered like a good actress? Or just like this like famous pinup. Even her dancing scenes looked like she didn't know what she was doing. They did not look good.
I really thought that you'd be like, I love her. I'm so shocked right now.
No, I don't know. I wasn't into her.
Oh, I'm so into her.
I mean, I could see why she would be considered like this diva. I could sense that. But again, I guess it's a matter of taste. And what's the story with Rita Hayworth?
Well, she was married to Orson Welles at the time that they made this movie, that she made this movie.
Okay. Did he ever cast her in anything?
Yeah, there's a movie called The Lady from Shanghai. You want to talk about crazy, like convoluted, and he directed that. Convoluted noir movies. Watch that. But their marriage was falling apart at the time. But Glenn Ford and Rita Hayworth had like an on again, off again love affair, good friends for like 40 years, and they lived next door to each other.
Well, that's convenient.
Mm-hmm.
Neighbors with benefits. Yeah, I mean, this movie just kind of, like, the plot felt very sloppy to me, and that annoys me because I like a good plot.
Yeah, I just don't care about the plot. I just like the dynamic between all these people.
What was the deal with like that one guy who's like the bathroom attendant or something?
Oh, I love him, Uncle Pio. Yeah, Uncle Pio is the only person in this entire movie who has any perspective on the characters. Everybody else is so lost in their own selves, and Uncle Pio reads everybody. He's like, you're a peasant. Oh, you're lonely. Oh, there's going to be some interesting things going on here. You're American. She's American. Let's see what happens. I love him.
He's sort of like, it's almost like all the other characters are Don Quixote, and he's sort of like Sancho Panza. It's like, what are you doing?
Yeah. He's like, we're going to see if you are a gentleman or a peasant.
He kind of, his accent was weird. I think it was supposed to be Spanish, right? Because it almost sounded Eastern European.
Yeah, I don't think they cared about that stuff back then, though.
No.
You know, because I mean, that was supposed to be Buenos Aires, and it was like lots of people there that weren't Argentinian.
Well, it was all the Nazis and the Jews.
True. That is true.
Yeah. I did like the fact that it was set in Argentina, because I think movies from, I shouldn't say that. I guess you have Casablanca that wasn't set in the U.S. But yeah, I guess it felt like a sort of an exotic location, even though the whole thing was probably shot on a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was okay.
It was okay. I'm so disappointed.
I mean, I'm glad I watched it because, like, now I can say I watched Rita Hayworth's most important film. And if it comes on TV or something, I'll watch it again to see what I think about it.
What do you think about the manhandling?
Oh,
I know you like manhandling in the movies.
Or my favorite manhandling scene is where Glenn Ford catches Gilda with one of her boyfriends, and he does like the front slap, back slap, and then the punch. It was just so quick. Like, I like that one. I like that a lot. But I thought the way you set this up was, I thought there was going to be more brutality between, like, she was going to get accosted more, but I kept waiting for it. It didn't really happen.
I think it was more, I guess there was some accosting, but there's a lot of like psychological and verbal stuff. He was mean to her.
He was. But she was, again, she was like, I guess, I don't know if it was like her, it wasn't really her overacting, but she was just like trying to play it cool all the time. And it was like probably annoying him. Where he's like, let's drink to that bitch that ruined my life. And she's like, let's do it. Even though it was her. It's probably so pissed off. It's like, it's you. Admit it.
Yeah.
You ruined my life.
Yeah. So one thing I did notice in this movie, this time watching it, is that the sort of cadence of the language. Yeah,
there's like a certain poetry to it. There's also a lot of like kind of like quick back and forth banter that reminded me of the Chandler stuff that we've talked about before. And some of it was really good, and then some of it was a little tiresome. There's some good innuendos for sure.
Oh yeah, like going swimming. I taught her everything she knows.
So yeah, I guess there was a lot of sexual undertones.
It was extremely sexual. And I actually have read Glenn Ford's biography written by his son, Peter. And he talks about how on this film, like they hadn't become lovers yet, Glenn Ford and Rita Hayworth. But on this film, the director would give them motivation for their characters by telling them what one character really wanted to do to another one. And apparently it was super explicit.
I would pay money to hear those tapes.
I know. I kind of want to know. Like, what were you saying?
Yeah, like what kind of things were they saying in 1946?
Okay, so my question is, what do you think about the ending? The tone of the ending just feels off.
Oh yeah, for sure. It should have been a tragic ending for sure. Something should have happened. It couldn't have been a happy ending.
No, they didn't deserve a happy ending.
Because throughout the movie, they kept setting up this idea of like tragedy's going to befall you. Tragedy's going to befall you. You know, she's so superstitious, and like all these signs are pointing to tragedy, and then there's no payoff. There's no tragedy.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
I agree, and I feel like that's a cop out for the studio to give us a happy ending.
Yeah, I mean, you could have played it different ways. You could have had like Johnny being shot. You could have had Gilda dying, but then Johnny and Munson both surviving. That would have been tragic in a different way.
Yeah, I like
he's like,
that.
He hated her so much, and then when she's dead, he realizes like, no, he like loved her more than he hated her, whatever. And like even Munson maybe would be affected by this, but
but Munson can't live. He's a bad guy, and he's done murder in the movie, so he can't get away with his crime.
Yeah, the whole cop out with Argentinian detective who just says like, basically, I'll cover for you. He was a bad guy. It's like, fuck off. I can give you 10 reasons why you'll get off. It's like, fuck off.
According to our records, he died 3 months ago because he did fake his own death.
Right.
Okay. But you still have a body there. Like, what are you going to do? Dump the body in the ocean?
It also, I'm trying to remember, did you ever watch this documentary about, it's called like The Gay Voice?
I don't think so.
They interview various people, including David Sedaris, about like there's this thing with gay men about how they sound, like how their voice sounds, and some like gay men think they sound too like effeminate, so they like work hard on like sounding more masculine and have deeper voices. Like I think David Sedaris for like had insecurities because he has like kind of like a very high pitched voice. And I think I'm trying to remember. I think it was in that documentary they had a part about how gay men were portrayed in movies. And if you look at these older movies, they tended to be like these like sneaky, conniving, like snake type guys. And so I'm trying to remember if like there was a clip of Munson in that, because he came off as kind of like this shady gay guy almost. Like he claimed to love Gilda, but like it didn't really
he loved Johnny.
Yeah, it didn't really come across that he was physically interested in her.
Gilda was a possession. That was just something to have.
Yeah. Well, he even says, remember, like, because when he first meets Johnny, he sets up sort of the rules of their arrangement, and he says something like, was it women and casinos don't mix?
He certainly did.
And then Johnny's like, well, what about your wife? And he's like, well, she's not a woman. Doesn't he say something like that?
My wife is not a woman or something like that. Yeah.
It's a weird one.
It is. It's very, I think they called it perverted, a perverse tale.
That makes sense. That makes sense.
But I love it.
Yeah, I mean, I'll give it a stream. Put it in the streamer category.
Yeah, I'm a rent it.
So for next week, we have The Chimes of Midnight. Can you tell me what this is about without giving anything away so I can come up with something complimenting?
I haven't watched it.
Oh, you don't know what it's about either?
No, I know it's something Shakespearean.
Wait, Shakespearean?
Yeah.
Oh, God. I hate Shakespeare.
Okay, well, Orson Welles loved Shakespeare, so...
If this is
going to
have Shakespeare-y talk...
I don't know. I haven't seen it yet.
If it's going to have vows and shit... All right, let me think of a palate cleanser for that.
I'm Sydney.
And I'm Jake.
And you've been listening to Two for the Matinee.
Join us next time when we talk about Chimes of Midnight and Thief. And maybe Ambersons.
And maybe French Kiss.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, French Kiss, maybe.